guys, as some of you may know and some of you may not know, I like to stud and spike clothing. And a lot of you have expressed interest in getting kind of a basic idea on where to go, what to do, and such. So I'm going to try to help you out with that as best as possible, just by kind of introducing you to the craft really quickly. Honestly, the question I get asked most often is, where do you get your supplies, your studs and your spikes? And it's pretty easy. It's studsandspikes.com. I don't know how anyone couldn't find them in a simple Google search, but I think someone had to lead me in the right direction too, so it's alright. And just really quickly before I go on, these stickers on the website, they are $5 for free. Like, I don't even think you have to pay shipping. And if you take those $5 and you put them in various areas, you could put one on your backpack, you could put one on your laptop, you can put one on your coffee table, and you take a picture of all 5 and you email it to studsandspikes.com, and they will in turn send you a bag of 100, I believe it's standard English 77 studs. But these are just a little taller than the standards, but generally that's the look, and they're my favorite, and there are a lot of other favorites as well. So I'm going to introduce you to some of the different variety of studs and spikes that there are out there right now. Most of my projects that I've done so far, whether it's jackets or vests or hoodies or shoes or bracelets, wristbands, and on and on and on. I always try to use several different styles of studs and or spikes, mostly studs, but studs and spikes, just so that there's some variety and there's some texture and there's some depth to it. This is just a bag of my most recent order, which was a month or two ago. Just to give you an idea of the variety. Right here we have a dome stud, which is basically just a flat button type. Rounded but flat. So these small little ones are really good for accenting and working on seams and things like that. Now from dome studs, we go to cone studs. These are medium cones, 7/16 of an inch. And as you can see, these are rounded like the domes, but they come to a point at the top and they're a bit taller. And these are also a medium size as opposed to the small size on the dome. I like to also use these for shoulder accenting. They kind of give a little bit more of a rugged look than the dome stud. These are my favorite, and that's why I ordered 500 of them. Just to give you a little bit, okay, here are the standards, just to give you a little bit of comparison. These are the standard English 77 silver studs, in comparison to the tall English 77 silver studs. So there is quite a difference. These ones I haven't really used much yet, but I'm showing them to you just so that you can see the variety out there, and these are ones I would recommend if you're working on a Born This Way jacket, like the ones that Gaga wore. The one that Gaga wore, that was on the album cover. And Jesus, I'm throwing stuff everywhere. These are, perfect for the back of that jacket. Jesus. And that is just I think it's an extra large. They still call it a large 3/4 inch silver dome stud. It's really too big and too kind of silly for my needs. How many did I buy? I bought 50 of them. God knows where I'm going to use 50. But I'm sure I'll find a way. And another thing I bought 500 of course, is the standard 1/2 inch pyramid stud. These are probably the most well-known studs. They're the ones that are seen on, like the belts that you see in Hot Topic, where you have the 3 rows of pyramids. They're the most commonly known. A lot of people have no idea where to get studs and spikes, so they just remove the studs from their belt or their wristband or whatever, and they do their own work. The only thing with that is that once the prong on a stud is bent, it never has the structural integrity that it did before it was ever bent. So when you're removing your stud from your belt and then reclosing the prong again on your new project, you're just weakening the prong over and over again. But you can get those 1/2 inch pyramids on studandspikes.com. I use them regularly, and I ordered 500 the last time because I will always have a use for them. They kind of are great for like the tops of pockets and accenting pockets, or adding to a seam, something like that. So now let's talk about spikes. Spikes are a misunderstood level of the stud and spike art thing. And the reason is because they're not quite as easy to work with, and they're not quite as easy to incorporate into your design. And they also don't apply as easily. They're also much heavier, they're more expensive, and they're not quite as practical. Just to show you some examples in my hand, this is, I believe this is a 1 1/8 of an inch tree spike. Now, unlike the studs, which are applied by bending the 2 prongs inward, and I'll show you that in more detail shortly, the spikes are fastened by the use of either Phillips head screwdrivers and sometimes flathead screwdrivers. Just depends on the type, but they're always the standard size of screws. These are almost the same, but just a little bit skinnier. I believe these are thin, tall trees, probably an inch tall. And again, you've got your screw in the bottom. And just to show you how that works really quickly, I'm just unscrewing the spike on the screw. And pretend there's a piece of fabric in between the stud and the screw, and you want to just fasten it. And yeah, of course we'll go into more detail with that, but I just want to kind of give you a visual, because a lot of people really don't get it and need some help. So another type of studs, spikes, and I'll just show you these because these are ones that use flathead screws. These are 1/2 inch tree spikes. They're some of my favorites because since they're shorter, they're also significantly lighter, and you can add more without taking out your shoulders or your back or your, or whatever. It's wearing studs on your shoulder, or wearing spikes specifically on your shoulders, is it's heavy, and it can be very tough on the back. But see, just so you notice, this half-inch tree spike has only a flathead screw, and that really just is a minor difference. But it's just something to be aware of when you're getting your supplies, knowing that you want to have a flathead screwdriver as well as a Phillips head screwdriver. The flathead is important for a variety of different reasons. People constantly ask me, what kind of tools do you use? The website said that they had a beginner set that I could buy, and it has this tool, it has this tool, it has this tool. Oh, they have this tool set, and it has this, and it has this, and it's an extra $25, and all you really want. Oh, I also hear so often, for the people that don't, that aren't almost fooled by the overpriced production items. Others do everything with their bare hands, and then they wonder why they're in extreme amounts of pain and they have blisters all over their fingers. Basically, all I use to apply my studs and spikes is a multi-tool like this. Sometimes they're called, I don't remember, but several brands make them. They're just, one of these type of deals that has a bunch of different tools inside. You don't need one of these. All you really need is a standard Phillips head screwdriver and a standard flathead screwdriver. You also need one of these. This is called a dart awl. You don't necessarily need a dart awl. You can actually use a dart or anything that is sharp and pointy. Just be very careful. But I use this tool if I am putting a stud into a material that's a little bit tougher and that can't just be kind of pushed in. And I use this to just make little holes to make it an easier process. Other than that, I don't really use many other tools. I do have like a pair of needle nose pliers, which sometimes I use to bend prongs over if they're especially long, or for some reason they need a little extra help. But this is not a required tool. Like I said, the only thing you really need, and you can probably get it from your dad's basement or his workshop or whatever, and you can also get it just as cheap from fucking Walmart or something, is the flathead screwdriver, Phillips head screwdriver, and a dart awl, or a dart, or a sharp-ass thin object. And I keep, you can't really see it right here, but I keep quite a collection of studs and spikes organized really, really well. I have this box, which, I'll just take one of these out here. That looks like tall 77s, standard 77s, and then small 77s. Basically, small amounts, but big enough so that I can travel with this, bring it somewhere, and work on some stuff. And before I move on, a new type of spike that has become available these are these pyramid spikes. They're really neat, and I haven't gotten too much of a chance to use them yet, but they're really bulky and tall and three-dimensional. And these also use standard, these look like standard Phillip head screws. And, I keep saying the name of the screw, but, these screws you don't need to get on your own. They come with the exact number that you purchase, they come with them, so, another really popular type of spike is the cone spike. It's really hardcore look, especially this tall style. One problem with these is, especially once you get to an inch high, sometimes your pieces will have a hard time standing up, and we'll work on that. I'll let you guys know some of my tips and tricks for how to keep everything, standing up straight and tall. Now I'm going to do a quick demonstration on how exactly to apply a stud and a spike and how I do it. What I'm going to be using just for today's demonstration is a piece of black felt. This black felt, felt in general is a tough material, but also a soft material and something that's easy to work with. The studs that you'll get off studsandspikes.com will have two prongs. Sorry for the poor quality, but they'll have two prongs. With some materials, and with a material like this, black felt, which is pretty easy to put things through, you want to take your stud, and with a material like this, you can just kind of set it right into the fabric. So now you can see that the stud is through the fabric and the prongs are out the other side. This is where your flathead screwdriver will come in, and one of your first of many different uses for it. People do this different ways. This is how I do it. With a flathead screwdriver, I push the prongs down. So as you can see, one is up, one is down. And you can also reinforce it just by pushing extra hard. And as you can see on the front side, this stud has been applied. On the back side, that's what it looks like. Two prongs bent over towards themselves. Right now, very quickly, I'll put a spike in for you. It's a little difficult to put a spike into a fabric like this, this felt, simply because the spike is so much heavier than studs. So what I do is I removed my stud from my screw. What I would do, I put the spike aside, and I'm dealing just with the screw. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take that dart awl that I showed you, and I'm just going to work it through a little bit, just because, like I said, this felt is so easy to manipulate. sometimes you gotta kind of work it, getting it through, especially since I'm just kind of working under the gun here and not super into precision. So right now you've got the back of the spike, which is the screw, and that is through. On the other side, you can see the spike or the screw pointing out, and I'm gonna take my 1/2 inch spike and screw it on with care. I always try to tighten it to basically the point where it's not any longer being successfully tightened. Now, like I said before, because of the weight of the spike versus the weight of the fabric, we've got a spike that is just kind of flopped over there. And even when I straighten it, there's just nothing holding it in. So I'm going to do something a little bit different and show you guys how I fix this situation. Now I'm doing this really kind of half-assed right now, but I just want to give you an example of what I do to make spikes stand up in a situation like this. So I just took a really ugly random piece of felt just to kind of do this quickly, but I'm going to fold it up. And once I've done that, I've got a little square right there. I'm taking my dart ball, pushing it through, really kind of pulling just so that the hole, because you've got several different layers for that screw to get through, so you really want to make sure that the hole is good on each level. See, even as I can see, oh, I think it's going to go through. It went through. So, and right now I'm pushing it through that felt to give you an example of just one of the many things you can do to be more precise and just have a stronger look. I love this method. I kind of can't, I'm sure it's not, Stephanie's method, but it is a method I did come up with on my own, and I hope other people do it too, because it saves time and it helps to restore quality. So now, as you can see, we've got 2 spikes right here. One is flopping over. This one that's closest to us is flopping over. This one is perfectly straight. This is what the back looks like. Just some extra layering so that the stud and the spike can grab on. So that's pretty much it for today. I hope that you all kind of maybe learned something. And I would love to hear if you have any questions, comments, constructive criticism. If you want to show off your studded and spiked goods, I would love to see it. So, in the meantime, stud on, dude. Cut. Thank you guys for watching. I hope this was informative for you. And please respond with questions, respond with things that you would like me to address, show you how to do, and I'll do the best that I possibly can. Thank you guys.